Consciousness, consciousness, consciousness is like the ocean, the ocean, the ocean, the ocean. The H2O network, purveyors of passion, seeking to expand human consciousness from the deep depths of the universe of your soul.
Greetings. My name is Lenon, and I am the writer of the book Deep in the Garden of Consciousness. For many years, I have been asked to write a book about spirituality, consciousness, reality, the soul, creation, metaphysics, 2012, ascension, etc. Over the years, I have been extremely reluctant to do so. However, I have arrived at a place in time where I have realized my worth, my strength, and my power to positively impact the nature of reality on planet Earth. My message to you is that after you read my book, Deep in the Garden of Consciousness, you will be empowered to positively impact the nature of reality on planet Earth. What I share in my book, Deep in the Garden of Consciousness, will challenge the reality of many. The biological entity that we call the human being is not exclusively a physical being. It is made up of converging components. It is conscious and autonomic, spiritual and physical, earthly and ethereal. Join me, Lenon, as we take a spiritual journey deep into the Garden of Consciousness. Visit my website, www.lenonhonorfilms.com, www.lenonhonorfilms.com. That's www.lenonhonorfilms.com. Peace and many blessings to you.
Consciousness, consciousness, consciousness is like the ocean, the ocean, the ocean, the ocean. The H2O network, purveyors of passion, seeking to expand human consciousness from the deep depths of the universe of your soul.
Greetings, family, and welcome to the H2O Network. This is your host, Dia Nunez, broadcasting live from New York City. I'd like to welcome everyone who is in the chat room and will be in the chat room later, everyone on the phone lines. Our phone lines are jam-packed, and also to everyone who will be listening to this via the archives later on. Family, I see you on the switchboard. Make sure that you press 1 so I know that you want to be heard, so you can ask Lenon Anna a question if you have one. And if you're listening and you'd like to call in, you can call in to 917-889-7207. That's 917-889-7207. Make sure you press 1 on your keypad. And also, family, you know that we're percolating throughout the internet stratosphere. If you go to Facebook, your Facebook search engine, and type in DIANUNEZ, that's me. I have 2 profiles. Friend them both. We have a lot of individuals who are sharing inspiration, sharing many things. We're friends with a lot of cool and fun and innovative people. And also you'll be able to hook up with the H2O fan page, where we give resources, information on tools that are percolating this coming up summer and always, and many other things. So make sure you press that fan page like button, if you will. Share with your friends, because it's all about being the conduit for others and people who are bringing things to the forefront of humanity. Of course, we're on Twitter, tweeting away with all of the esoteric, paranormal, shamanistic, PhDs, authors, filmmakers, you name it. We're hanging out with everybody. So come hang out with us on Twitter, DIANUNEZ, or the HO Network. We're also on spiritual networks, Google Plus, and also on YouTube. I'm catching up. I have so many shows that I have to download, if you will, on the HO Network YouTube channel, and I'm in the process of doing that. So come hang out with us at YouTube. And also, I'm updating the HO Network website. I have cleared a lot of things because, it's always good to grow and to progress and to have a different type of vision and passion, if you will, and that is happening at the H2O Network. We're always growing and checking out new things. So I'm reamping the H2ONetwork.weebly.com. That's the H2ONetwork.weebly.com. You can check it out. I am adding, let me go to my tabs because I have 1,000,001 tabs open as I percolate on the air with the family. I have just recently put up some new tabs that might be of interest to the family because, I really believe it's not about what I have to say. It's about collaborating with all of the beautiful minds and souls that are on the planet and actually standing and living in their truth. And it's about resources. I really believe in resources. Sometimes people want to know things and want to inquire about things, and they don't know where to go. So, I'm really working very hard to try to expand the resource base in one place for the family based upon the expansion of consciousness, based upon the expansion of the human family, and just making that better, and based upon the expansion of research in general. So I've added some new tabs. Of course, we have, the Friends of the HO Network, our calendar of events, and our archives. You can check out our archives at the HONetwork.weebly.com. And also expand your mind. I'm putting up a metaphysical library, family. I'm testing it out. As of now, it's free. I don't know how long that will be. And if it doesn't go free, it will be like $1, something, very small. So one can contribute, if you will, to keep the website running and so on and so forth. But I have been wanting to share all of the things that I've read percolating through time, and they're in PDF form. So we have an Expand Your Mind, which is the metaphysical library. Then we have Mother Earth Update, where you'll be able to get update on water, because this is the HO Network, and water is very much important. We can't live without it, and it takes care of us. The blood of the earth, if you will, and community gardening resources, seeds, and blogs that really are innovative and progressive, and all of the things that have to do with Mother Earth. So we have a tab there. And then I just created a new tab that's coming soon, Heal Your Body, because, I know a lot of herbologists. I know a lot of people who deal in alternative medicine, and a lot of people want to deal in alternative medicine. However, they don't know or don't have resources. They want to contact people. So I'm going to have a tab for that, so you can get in touch with people that have been on the HO Network and people who are up and coming in the healing arts, because, I love that. My mother's an herbologist and a massage therapist, so I want to be able to expand upon that. And also we have dream resources, because y'all know I always talk about the esoteric way of being, and I do a lot of spiritual work in the dream time, and there are tons of researchers and individuals out there who are using the element of their dreams, if you will, in order to do certain spiritual work. So I'm going to have a dream resources tab, and I have a couple other things on the burner. So make sure you keep your eyes out for what's cracking at the H2ONetwork.weebly.com. That's the H2ONetwork.weebly.com. And check out our metaphysical library and share with your friends. There's some pretty cool PDFs that you'll be able to download and read and expound, because y'all know I'm a bookworm. I love to read. So I want to share some of the things that I've read with you guys. So check that out. And also, family, what else? Make sure that you go to, you can download the HO Network on iTunes. I love iTunes because I download Lenon Honor, I download Freeman, I download download Mark Passio and a lot of other people who are doing progressive work on the internet stratosphere. So make sure that you go to the HO Network Blog Talk profile page and click that iTunes button so you'll be able to download all of the things that are percolating. Oh, and another thing, announcement, I'm also going to start to do some podcasting just on the HO Network website. A lot of people have been emailing me about certain resources and insight, if you will, that I have in certain areas. So very soon, family, as soon as I make this transition across the United States back to the West Coast, I'm going back to Colorado to live and be in my natural state of nature, I will be bringing some new things to the forefront, and I'll be doing podcasts on the website which will not be available on the HO Network on Blog Talk, which I'm very excited about. I'm going to step out of my comfort zone with technology and do some podcasting. So if there are resources or things that you guys are seeking, like I'm really starting to do meditations and I want to bring that forth, if there are things that you guys want to talk about or discuss or so on and so forth that you would like an episode on and want me to expound upon, send me an email at the hshownetwork@gmail.com or Facebook or rg345@nyu.edu. I have so many emails, it's ridiculous. Email me. It's not about me, it's about you. It's all about collaboration, resources, and expounding upon our consciousness and how we can become better as human beings. And I'm going through this process, and I want us all to share, and if we can all learn from each other, if you will, that would be fabulous. And let me see, y'all know I do tons of announcements, but it's very important that we connect, you know what's going on, and that you connect with me and let me know what's important to you so I, at the HO Network, can bring that forth to you, because it's about growth and about becoming better human beings as individuals, as our communities, as our families, and growing upon that. And a person that talks about this with just passion and fervor is my friend Lenon Honor. He has contributed so much to the fabric of humanity, and I always love having Lenon Honor on the HO Network, because you just never know where we're going to go. As a good friend of mine says, Ralph Smart at infinitewaters.com, who you have to check out as well. He's a beautiful filmmaker. You never know where we're going to dive when Lenon Honor comes on, because him, and not just him, but him and his wife are just doing so many wonderful things and expounding upon consciousness and the manipulation of media and making us really use our cognitive senses to bring certain things forth so we can begin to see certain things. He's just brought so much to humanity and to the space of my growth and to my husband's growth. Me and my husband talk about Lenon Honor tons. As a matter of fact, we were talking about him today. He always makes us ponder many things, him and his wife. So tonight, family, I can't even tell you if it's part 2, part 3, part 25, because Lenon Honor has been hanging out with the HO Network for so long. I'm just going to say it's part 100, because this is not going to be the first, it's not going to be the last. It will be many, one out of many conversations that I know that we'll have with Lenon Honor, because he does so many things. So what we're going to do tonight, family, make sure that you have your café con leche, you have your agua, you have your té, and you have all of the things that you need, and you get nice and cozy and comfortable, because you just never know where we're going to dive tonight with Lenon Honor. We're going to talk a little bit about the coming of Keyto. I know that we really delved into that last time he was here, but I have a few more questions that I want to ask him on that. And then, honey, we're going to grab the jugular. I'm going to grab the jugular, because Lenon Honor has this series on LenonHonorFilms.com called Media Manipulation. And, honey, it's BS. I'm telling you, every Saturday night, it's like something that I look forward to every week. I have my Saturday nights where I do media manipulation. And then on Sunday nights, I have my relationship course, because these are truly courses. And Lenon goes to the jugular. And we're going to go for the jugular this evening and talk about many things that a lot of people are very uncomfortable talking about. However, we need to bring certain things to the forefront, and I'm really going to pick Lenon's brain as to why these things have morphed into, I guess you could say, a different teaching, why he's bringing this to the forefront, and what he thinks, what his perception is on this so-called default, the matrix, the illusion, if you will, of humanity, many, many things. So make sure you go to the potty and right quick, and you get nice and comfortable. And let me go to my switchboard, because I know Lenon Honor is hanging out patiently as he's chomping on his rice and beans and drinking his tea and getting ready. So let me go to my switchboard. I see him on the line. Hey, Lenon.
Hey, sis. How's it going?
It is going fabuloso, just chilling out and enjoying the nice tropical weather in New York City, and that's basically about it. Life is grand.
That's good to hear. Everything's going well with me and my family. Aida says hello.
Well, hello, Queen. We send you greetings from New York, and we send you hugs and kisses, and we're going to be talking about you tonight. So, the back of your neck may be burning, but, because you be doing your thing. So we're going to blow up her spot as well, because I tell you, you and Aida are like this super dynamic, super twin powers, I tell you. With you in your filmmaking and your books, Aida is like this total wonderful cook, and I'm blowing up the spot. I know you guys are talking about a cooking show when she does her craft. So we're going to blow up her spot too, because you guys together collectively do so many things. So let's jump on the roller coaster and see where we go. But we talked last time about The Coming of Keyto, this wonderful this film that's coming up. It's going to be, from my standpoint, very eye-opening. I have to ask a few questions. You talk about metamorphosis, and you talk about metamorphosis with the human being. What does that detail exactly? I mean, we all know what that is to a certain extent, but from your view and your scope, what do you mean by that when it comes to The Coming of Keyto?
Yes, and it's multi-tiered. I would say, in the first place, we begin our metamorphosis from conception. And from the moment that we are conceived physically, there's this metamorphosis that begins to take place. And it actually carries itself throughout the duration of our existence here on planet Earth. So, in essence, this whole, in terms of our life experience here, it's really supposed to be about this metamorphosis of having certain experiences, growing, learning, becoming something greater. And I use the analogy of the butterfly, becoming the butterfly that we always had hoped to be. So on an individual basis, there is this metamorphosis that we all engage in, and these experiences that we have, and those experiences provide us with understanding and provide us with wisdom, and it allows us to kind of structure our lives in a particular way. And it provides us with the internal power needed to begin to actualize the reality that we want. So on one level, when we look at on an individual basis, there is this metamorphosis that is taking place in our lives every single day. The ups and the downs, that's all part of the metamorphosis, so forth and so on. But then as a species, and this is really what I deal with in terms of the book, Deep in the Garden of Consciousness, but then also within The Coming of Keyto, as a species, we are also collectively engaged in this metamorphosis. And this metamorphosis is really about ascending the species back into the realm of cosmic respectability. And this is something I've been talking about for several years now, cosmic respectability, wherein the universe looks back at its children, meaning the human species, and it can say, I respect my children. The human species as it is today, collectively speaking. And of course, there's individuals who have progressed in particular areas and they've metamorphosized, and indeed it's like a respectful existence. But in terms of the species as a whole, we are not in a place where we are not even close to being in a place where we are respected in the cosmos. And therefore, in this sense, collectively, there is this need for internal growth as a species, and this internal growth is the metamorphosis. This internal growth is really about the spiritualization of the species. It's about bestowing upon the species spiritual enlightenment so that it can begin to function to a greater degree here on planet Earth. And so in essence, when we talk about collectively as a species, the concept of metamorphosis is really it's like a symbolic treatment of the need for us to become something greater as a species. And there's a whole lot of work that has to be done in this regard. And, you know, like my wife and I, we try to, you know, tackle the issues from many different perspectives. So, like, for instance, or we try to tackle that particular issue from many different perspectives and dealing with different topics. So, for instance, we can deal with media manipulation as an example that stifles the spiritual progressions of the species, that keeps us in a particular, it keeps us in this particular mindset. It keeps us in a particular spiritual disposition. It keeps us behaving, what we call behavior modification, and these behavior patterns are not in line with the our metamorphosis process or our ability to become something greater. So the media manipulation, that's one of the topics that we try to tackle, my wife and I. We also tackle, relationship issues, dealing with male-female relationships, because one of the primary means of spiritualization in terms of the species is through the interactions between the masculine and the feminine, meaning the man and the woman coming together to create something greater, i.e. children, to create something greater, create a family institute, to create something greater, do radio shows, produce documentaries, produce music, produce cooking shows, produce books. This is all to assist. This is creating something greater. So my wife and I, we try to tackle this particular issue of uplifting the human species, ascending the species back into the realm of cosmic respectability. And we deal with many different topics that kind of tie to this central need for the continued spiritual evolution of the species. And this continued spiritual evolution of the species is what we would call metamorphosis.
And, you know, I can, as me being an observer of you and your wide work and being on this journey along with, thousands of other people, I've been able to witness this. Just from your media manipulation aspect, because your earlier works are very much different than the work that you're doing now on media manipulation, because from my perspective, Lenon, we are literally in a war, and from a perspective of our psychology, of our consciousness, of our imagination. And I know that in the trailer for Coming of Keyto, you've expressed that at a certain point in time there was a bit of a frustration, if you will, within your organic being about how one changes and grows in a certain type of way to be able to help humanity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. One can only assist others to the degree that they have helped themselves. And in order to assist others in their spiritual progression, one must also be spiritually progressed. And one's spiritual progression must be reflective of their creative contribution. And so if you're growing spiritually, then your creative contribution must also grow. This is to say that the nature of what you deal with, the topics that you address, must also grow. So for a lot of my earlier work, it really operated on a particular level. And it was functional, especially, in regards to where my mind was at, where my spiritual progression was at, where I was at in my metamorphosis, right, in my continued process of trying to become something greater, to ascend myself into the realm of cosmic respectability in hopes of helping other people to do the same. But then at a certain point, I became very frustrated because I felt like the nature of those topics and the manner in which I addressed those topics, and not that those topics were not valuable. They have their place, they have their worth. It helped people, it helped me. But I also became frustrated because the more and more you do this type of work, the more and more you realize that there's more work to be done, if that makes sense. And then the more people you impact, the more you realize how important, it is to impact people in a positive way. So therefore, you have to do more. You have to strategize. You have to be more efficient with your time. You must tackle issues that are in line with your own spiritual progressions, right? It's like one of the things I've always tried to do is my work is really reflective of my own spiritual progression. So, it's like people who have viewed my work, especially from the beginning, you can notice, they'll be able to notice that, there's a progression in my work. Well, this progression in my work is really the progression in terms of my internal workings. Right? It's reflective of my internal spiritual progression. That's really what it comes down to. So the frustration sometimes, it's like, everyone, we've had this experience in our lives where, we may get to a certain point in our life and other people may look at it and say, wow, that's wonderful that you're at that place. But then we look at where we're at in our life and we're like, I could be so much further and I could have been. And then we say, I can become something greater. Again, this is this metamorphosis. This is realizing, that caterpillar that wishes to become a butterfly, that you can always become something greater. You can always ascend yourself into a higher level of cosmic respectability if you've already reached the level of cosmic respectability. This is to say that the progressions, it's like infinite. Like there's no real at least in my mind, there's no plateau. It's like it just goes on forever. So sometimes it becomes frustrating, especially if you feel like you're stagnant. And then in my work, I felt that there were things that were stagnating me in terms of my spiritual progressions, and I had to kind of shift my focus. And because ultimately I wanted to impact more people in a more positive way. So that's in terms of my own progressions and my own frustrations. At a certain point, I realized that frustration needed to be alleviated. And the best way for me to alleviate that frustration, I guess this will apply to in our lives, everyone's life, not just with what we produce to help other people, and that is to look internally and ask the critical question, what do I need to do to make a better contribution? So in essence, for someone who may be dealing with internal issues where they feel like they're stagnant, well, you ask the question, what can I do internally, right, to move myself forward so that I can be a better husband, I can be a better father, I can be a better, for you women, I can be a better woman, I can be a better mother, I can be in better service to humanity. And that alleviates the frustration because now you have a new task to perform. Now you have a new goal that you have set. And I always set high standards, and at a certain point, the standard that I've set, once I was feeling that level of frustration, I began the process of pursuing that standard. And out of that standard has manifested some really wonderful things, like the book Deep in the Garden of Consciousness, and the radio shows that I'm doing now, the new website, and the coming of Keyto. All these things. This is reflective of me transcending the frustration and making a deep commitment to continuing my own spiritual evolution, this metamorphosis, if you will.
Do you? I know that you are a wonderful humanitarian, and there have been people who have been dealing with you for a very long time. Have you looked out into the stratosphere with people that you collaborate with, the round table, if you will, and seen the shift? Because I know that when you were going through a certain type of shift, if you will, and changing, I wouldn't say that there was really a backlash, but there was like a cleansing process, if you will, that went along with that. And I don't know, I guess for some people change is very hard because I'm going through change right now. Do you see your audiences as you and your wife are bringing these wonderful things forward to change individual human beings and so they can go out into their communities and do better things? What have you observed about, the people in your round table and how they've grown along this journey with you and Aida? What have you observed?
Yeah, well, I've observed a couple of different things. There are people who jump ship, if you will. It's like anyone who's listening here, you make your contribution, and you know what your contribution must be. You continue to grow, and as you grow, your contribution changes. You may deal with different topics now. You may present a different type of an energy to people, and there are people who will recoil from that. People who may have been supportive of you and have gone on that path up until that point. But that's no different than in life. I've had friends in my life from junior high school, and after I graduated from high school, that was that. There was a new possibility for me. I went to college, a new environment, began to meet different people from all around the world, and it's almost like this expansion of possibilities. And not everyone that you meet in your life is going to be there with you for the duration. That's just kind of like part of it. Well, the same thing with this type of work. I've noticed that there were people I would say a significant amount of people, and I actually knew this because part of this internal process of metamorphosis is a purification process. And you will find that if you are purifying yourself, it will cause other people to either be inspired to do the same or maintain their current conditions, whatever that may be at that time, and in the process recoil from your progressions, and then they may send you a hateful email, or they may post a horrible message, or they whatever the case may be. These types of things happen. But that's part of the process. I mean, there was a point in my progressions with this, kind of transferring my focus to more what I consider to be much more spiritually evolved and much more empowering topics and issues. And there was a part of me that said, and I recognized this going in. I said, this is like a purification. There are going to be people that's been supportive of me for years, and after I make this transition, if you will, they're no longer going to be, interested in what I'm presenting. And I understood that. I mean, that's part of the process. But just as that can happen, because there's so many different possibilities when it comes to a shift, whatever shift that is. And it can be a personal shift in your life or the nature of the work that you're doing. I mean, y'all know this. Everyone who's listening here, you may have made a decision in your life to go in a different direction. For some of you, in terms of male-female relationships, maybe you said to yourself, I'm no longer going to be dealing with this type of an individual, and I'm not going to sell myself short anymore. And you knew that once you made that decision, there were certain types of males or females that were no longer going to be compatible for you. Now, that doesn't make them good or bad. That just means that you've progressed, right? So the same thing with this type of work. So just as there are people that will no longer be compatible with you, well, then guess what? Now you have an expansion of possibility of those individuals who are actually compatible with you in your progressions as a man or as a woman. And those are the individuals that begin to present themselves into your space. That's how these things work. So in terms of my shift in work and type of topics that I have been addressing, I guess we could say for the last, maybe last 8 months now, I've noticed this wonderfully blessed situation, and that is that there are individuals who've been following my work for quite some time who have, kind of maintained their connection, and they've made certain progressions in their life in the process. I've been doing personal consultations, and this is a whole new shift, like really helping people on an internal level that is more impactful than doing a documentary about, Illuminati symbolism, right? And there are people who I have seen their lives. They have taken hold of their life because of consultations and me speaking with them. They've taken responsibility for their life and transformed the very fabric of their existence. And there are people that I've worked with who, and it's not because I gave them something. It was really, I just worked with them and they found something, and then they made a conscious choice to pursue their greater self and then to metamorphosize. And I see them and I see what they're doing, and I look back and I say, wow. I just say to myself, and in some cases I see what they're doing and I'm inspired, wow, if this person can get through that issue and be able to become what they've become in just this short period of time, I really need to step my game up. I've seen this type of thing take place. So one of the beautiful things that has happened is you get this almost like this new crop of people who begin to gravitate towards your work. And just like if you're a man, if you start to go into this process of internal refinement and you purge, you refine the types of males that are in your space because you shift focus. You're going to lose some people in the process, but then you will begin to see that the quality of the individuals that begin to come into your space will be just that much more profound, just that much more refined. But the same thing is happening with me. I've noticed this, that the types of individuals who have been drawn to the type of work that I'm doing now, especially with my wife and I do with the positive relationships, they're operating at a different frequency, and that frequency is much more in line with my wife and I, our spiritual progressions, and this progression, what we would call the metamorphosis. So this ought to say that when you have to make choices, and I'm just using my own work as an example, but this also can apply, practically speaking, to your life, anyone who's listening here, that if you're going to commit to refining yourself so that you can come into a level of cosmic respectability on any level, it can be in male-female relationships, it can be in terms of your business, it can be in terms of, what you create, in terms of your creativity, music, book writing, documentary work, to whatever capacity. If you're going to commit to coming into a level of cosmic respectability, there is an internal purification that is going to take place. And as you purify, there is also going to be a purification of the individuals who are going to be in your space. And when individuals, kind of like move away, just, don't get down about that, because there was a part of me that I was kind of sad about that. I developed some wonderful friendships. But just recognize that what's happening is the opening up of a new possibility. And then what comes into that space that has been cleared will be much more refined and much more profound and much more in line with your spiritual progressions than what was there before. So this is part of this, this metamorphosis, if you will, this continued process of evolution as a species, because we can look at it on an individual level, we can also look at it as a species. And one of the things I'm very clear on, and this is something I always try to tell people who do this type of work, that you must always be true to your own spiritual progressions. And if you are growing in a particular level, in a particular area, and you're growing in a particular direction, what you create must also be reflective of that growth. Always. What you create must always be reflective of your internal growth. And that, in essence, in terms of spiritualizing the species, is one of the essential means of spiritualizing the species. What you do must be reflective of your internal growth. The relationships that you establish must be reflective of your internal growth. How you speak must be reflective of your internal growth. What you eat must be reflective of your internal growth. And so long as you are committed to this metamorphosis, you'll find that everything that begins to shape around you and around, in your environment, the types of people who come around, the types of opportunities that come to you, the types of radio shows you're able to go on will be reflective of your internal growth. And I guess that would be the biggest I guess you could say, the biggest secret that I've learned once I decided to make this transition to dealing with topics that were more reflective of my own spiritual progression.
And that's very important because you always raise the bar. One thing that I notice about what you and your wife do, and a lot of other people as well, they force you to raise the bar, if you will. It's not as if you are standing alone talking down to the people. You're like, hey, we're on this ride together. And you challenge people to raise the bar in whatever way that they're contributing to themselves, to their families, and to the greater essence of humanity, if you will. And as you said, sometimes when you have to move on, people take these things personally, but it's not a personal thing. It's all about continuing to grow and to be dynamic in nature and not to be stagnant in nature, and to really, like you said, metamorphosize and to be in a different place that you were. And you always push the bar with everyone that listens to you and so on and so forth. And I thank you for that. And that's, it's interesting. Sometimes it's not rare, but it's rare. Some people stay in the same place. But you continue to grow and you push everybody around you to grow, and that's a wonderful thing.
Oh, thank you. And I should say that stagnation does not inspire. Okay, so if there's anything I'm going to say to people today, just know that stagnation does not inspire. And we all have the capacity to impact people around us in profound ways, like each and every one of us. Sometimes we don't realize it, but we do. I mean, we can say something. We can, how we speak to someone, what words we use, even what we dress, what we eat. It can function as inspiration. How we treat other people, how I treat my wife tends to inspire people. Right? That there is it's possible that there are honorable men out there. And if I'm stagnant, if I was stagnant at the age of 21, then I would not be the man that I am today, and therefore I would not have been able to inspire in other men the possibility that they can too become greater, and then also inspiring women the possibility that there are honorable men out there. Stagnation does not inspire. And therefore, if the objective is to ascend the species back to cosmic respectability, stagnation is not an option. It's simply not an option. Then we must be proactive, and we must seek to do what we can to inspire. And what better way to inspire than to use oneself as a case study in terms of progression? That's why I lay it all out on the line. I mean, my wife and I, we've done live video streams where we spoke candidly about the types of things that we've had to work through. And many males would feel uncomfortable, many females would feel uncomfortable about, sharing those types of things. But the idea is that, look, we're a work in progress. We're not stagnant. We're trying to build our family institution, make it better. I'm trying to be a better service to my wife. I'm trying to be a better husband to her. I'm trying to be a better father to my children. I mean, I say that with the utmost level of passion. I'm trying to be a better father to my daughters. Like yesterday, I took some time just to sit down. And my wife is bringing me some tea right now. We're talking about you too right now. Yesterday, I took the time just to sit down on the couch, and my daughters just started jumping on me, And it occurred to me that they need that the little girl needs her daddy to be there so that she can have someone to jump on. Even if I sat there, and at a certain point I was trying to get up because I always have stuff to do. But then I said, wait a minute, hold on, be a better father. Just hold on. They climbing up up on my neck. Both of them, they laughing. They just having and all I'm doing is sitting there. But that's progression. You see, because before I would not have considered that. I'm always trying to do things, right? And I'm a good father. I know that, but I also know that I can be a better father, and I know I can be a better father to my daughters. You see, so stagnation. It's not an option. You see, because even raising my daughters, this is a process of returning the species back into the realm of cosmic respectability. One of the things I've been talking to my wife about is that there are things that we can do in the present that are going to impact future generations, and that there are particular issues that are going to need to be addressed generations down the line, issues that we're not going to be able to resolve today, but we can begin to plant the seeds today. And one of the things in terms of stagnation, what it does is, it disrupts the progressions of a man to becoming an honorable man. It can disrupt the progressions of a father being a good father or a good father being a great father, right? It can stagnate these types of things, and therefore stagnation cannot be an option if I'm going to ascend myself into the ultimate level of manhood. We can look at it on a personal level. We can look at it on a cosmic level in terms of the species. So stagnation does not inspire. And what I want to inspire in my daughters is I want them to be inspired to know that Daddy loves them and that there are men out there who will love them, you see. I mean, even as I'm saying that, I'm really feeling that right now. It's like, there's simple things that we can do today. And part of the reason why I'm saying this is because I've been doing personal consultations with women since Mother's Day. And there is a very troubling phenomenon that I'm noticing as, becoming more and more a norm. And see, I'm not really, I experienced that in my childhood, but I'm not privy to that in my everyday life because I'm a father who's present and I'm handling my business. But there are a lot of women who are out there who have been really damaged by men's inability to transcend their own stagnation, their inability to perceive themselves as having the capacity to becoming something greater, as great as they may think that they already are. And it's simple things like sitting there and letting your child play and jump on you and jump on your neck and grab your face and make you laugh and hold your face with her two hands and bring your face up to her face and she's laughing in your face. These are simple things that we can do that will allow for inspiration to flow so that our daughters will know that they are deserving to be loved. And see, this is something we can do in the present that sets the seed so that future generations down the line, that when she becomes 21 or 25, she will know that she deserves to be loved. She knows that she deserves to be protected. She knows that she deserves the best that any man can offer to her because Daddy gave her the best, because Daddy spent the time. Daddy was emotionally present. Daddy was physically present. And these are the types of things that grown women are not able to experience because for many of them, they don't perceive it to be a possibility. But then in many situations, men have not been raised in such a way that they recognize that this is something that they must give to their mates. So this is going back, and I don't mean to digress, but I really feel this strongly. It can be something as simple as being present and emotionally present for your daughters. But it can also translate to how you deal with your mate as a man, how you deal with your wife as a man, how you deal with your children as a man. Stagnation does not inspire. And one other thing you said, pushing the bar, I'm pushing the bar not just to inspire others, but to make sure that I am growing and I'm becoming greater, that I'm actively involved in this metamorphosis. This is pushing the bar. And if by pushing the bar, other people can see me in my progressions and be inspired to continue to move forward in their life, then so be it. That's what it's all about. That's what's going to get this species back on track to cosmic respectability. Stagnation will not do it. And so for those of y'all who are listening, whatever area in your life that you have become stagnant in, recognize that stagnation is not going to inspire anything great. And if you want to get yourself back on track to cosmic respectability, then you're going to have to transcend the stagnation. You're going to have to get to a point where not only you inspire yourself, but you're also inspiring others. See, I can't inspire anyone beyond the degree to which I am personally inspired. I can't assist people in their spiritual progressions beyond the point that I am committed to my own spiritual progression. See, it all takes place in the internal in the first place. Stagnation does not inspire. And what this species needs more than anything else right now is to be inspired to attain its greatest height, to be inspired to be of service to that which created it. And this is going to take millennia, but we can begin to plant the seeds today. And that's what I'm very much committed to.
Indeed, and that's very important, Lenon, because, you can't be in the arena of dealing with the people and not standing in your truth, because there are tons of individuals out there. Due to the advent of technology, anybody can do anything, which is a wonderful thing. But at the same time, there are plenty of people who are talking about certain things. However, they're not even living in that truth at all. And I remember at one point in time, you actually went off the air and you're like, look, you told everybody, you're like, at this point, there are certain things that I have to do and to get myself together because I have to stand in that truth. And that's very much important because if you're going to talk about it, you have to really be about it, if you will. You can't educate anyone or help any individual remember if you're not working on that yourself. It's very hypocritical in nature. And, one of the things that I love about your relationship series, and I know that people have emailed me and they're like, are they for real? You know what I'm saying? Because we've been so indoctrinated with the advent of thinking that relationships have to be a certain type of way. We have to argue. We have to be at war with each other. The perpetual state of war between man and woman, it's like a normal occurrence. So to see the positive essence of relationship, if you will, in front of your eyes, and having a conversation with it, it can make people feel very uncomfortable. So you and Aida are also raising the bar when it comes to relationships and our responsibility in the family unit, which is the most powerful alchemical unit on planet Earth, by the way, family. The man and the woman and their children. But you're literally changing the perception of that. And I know that for a while there, people were like, are they for real? They never argue. They never go through these things. But it's like I said, it's because we've been indoctrinated for so long to perceive that even when you're in a relationship with an individual that may be the right person or that you love, that it has to be, there's got to be a war constantly going on, and that's a misconception.
Yeah, this is called the male versus female war imprint program. I've spoken about that a lot. Essentially because it's all relative. Let's say a woman has experienced a relationship that was very brutal, meaning that she was physically abused by a man, and that was all that she knew. And then she sees a relationship wherein there is a woman and a man, and the man does not beat on the woman, but the relationship has a whole lot of problems. She may say, are they real? You see, it's relative. In the absence of this man beating on his wife, to her, she asks the question, is that real? But he may be doing a whole bunch of other foul stuff that she doesn't even consider, because her whole thing is, in terms of the brutality, that's in terms of what her perception is of the relationship. Is it possible to be in a relationship where there is no brutality? And so, in terms of, and the reason I'm sharing this story is because I want people to understand that it's all relative. It's about the standards that you set. It's about what you expect and what you are willing to accept as it relates to male-female relationships. And for many people, we set such low standards for ourselves. And so when a couple comes along who, for instance, they don't argue, we have our struggles. My wife and I, we have struggles. We don't argue. We don't fuss and fight. We don't curse at each other. We treat each other very nicely. But in terms of a family, we have struggles, right? But in terms of what I'm getting at is in terms, it's all relative. Just to say that if someone has experienced their whole life men and women bickering with each other and fussing and fighting like little children, which is really what arguing is, then when they see a couple that doesn't argue, they're going to say, are they real? Was that any different than the woman who's been beaten on for most of her life, and then she sees a man who doesn't beat on her life, on his wife, and she looks at them from afar and says, is that real? See, the deeper issue is this: what is your sense of what is possible? You see, that's the true question. So for a man that says, how can a man really be all like that and be nice like that? Well, look at yourself in the mirror and ask the question. That's not even relevant what someone else is doing. The real question is, what is your sense of what's possible for you? You see, so it's always relative. And this is to say that, there are people who would look at my wife and our relationship and they would say, it's possible to attain that. I got to say this, too, just to be very honest, because that's one thing. When I do consultations, I'm very honest with people, and when I talk about male-female relationships, we have to be honest with ourselves about this. For some people, the level of discomfort is because they have become stagnant, and stagnation does not inspire. And so if they see someone who has progressed beyond their stagnation, they perceive that those people to be unreal, so they ask the question, are they real? As opposed to, is that relationship possible for me? You see, the stagnation won't even get them to a point where they can actually perceive that question. The question isn't about whether or not something is real. It's really, the question is it possible for you to have? Is it something that you perceive to be good? And I would perceive that, when men and women getting together and having a positive relationship, I consider that to be good. No arguing, I perceive that to be good. So why ask the question, are they real? Why not ask, is it possible for me? And for many people, it's because stagnation. They don't want to deal with the stagnation, so they have to come up with an excuse. And the excuse is, that's not a reality. They're fronting or they're putting on airs. What you see when I speak is how I live. What you see when my wife speaks is how we live. You can come to our house and you see it. There's people who come to our house and you see it. When we say we raise our children, we raise our children. We say we educate our children, we educate our children. We say we try to eat the best food we can. Based upon how much money we have, we eat the best food that we can. It's possible. And it's not just possible for us, it's possible for everyone. See, this is also part of this ascendancy back into the realm of cosmic respectability. And if we are going to get there as a species, we have to have an expansion of what we perceive to be possible. So instead of saying, that's not a reality, or are they real, and even asking the question, why not say, is it possible? Is it possible for this species to get back on track to cosmic perspective? You see, the possibility is what empowers. Denying something of its reality is what disempowers and provides an environment for stagnation. And stagnation does not inspire. So this is to say, for all y'all who listen in, it's important that your sense of what is possible becomes the central focus. Not necessarily what my wife and I are doing or what we're talking about. I mean, that can inspire you too. But ultimately, to ask the question, is that possible in my life? And not just with what my wife and I do, but what other people are doing. Is it possible for me to have that too? For my wife and I, is it possible for us to get to a point where we don't have to worry about how we're going to get rent paid? Is it possible? And the answer is yes. That inspires, that motivates us to continue to grow in particular areas so that we can develop the skill set needed so that we won't have to be worrying about whether or not it's possible to get rent paid each month. It's all relative. So just remember that, for those of you all, and we get emails from people, and they say, we're skeptical. We understand that. I mean, we understand it because for some people, it's like you've been hurt so much, you don't even perceive the possibility of not being hurt. So when you see a couple that's not hurting each other, is that real? As opposed to, is it possible? Y'all get my point here? See, sometimes it's about all that we have experienced, and what we've experienced locks us down to a point where we get stagnant, and we become afraid. It's like when I started talking about different topics. Once we start talking about manhood, there were people who had followed my work for years, and all of a sudden they stopped following. Males. Why? Because they didn't want to deal with the possibility that they could become greater. They become stagnant. They felt as if what I was sharing was too much for them, and it made them feel less than. No, that's not it. See, there are people who are inspired when they see other people doing well. And those people who are inspired are those people who are committed to their metamorphosis. But the individuals who become envious and express hatred when they see someone else who's doing well in an area of their life that they wish they were doing well in, they recoil. Why? Because of stagnation. They don't want to do the internal work. Right? Well, the same thing applies to in terms of the work that I'm doing here now. There were men that could not deal with this transition, and they jumped ship. Now, when I was talking about Illuminati conspiracy and the New World Order and occult symbolism, they was all on board with that. But that's at a certain point, that's become stagnation. It becomes a program, and it doesn't inspire, and it doesn't make you a better man to know these things. What makes you a better man? Everyday application within the context of a male-female relationship wherein you are committed and you are of service to that which is greater than you. And there are many men who cannot get with that. But it's easier to worry about those things. And they ask the question, well, is that real as opposed to is that possible? So not to belabor this point, but we can look at it on many different levels. The progressions of my work are reflective of my internal progressions. And if you are inspired by what my wife and I share, you will be inspired because you perceive, what we are sharing and how we are living to be possible for you. And what is possible for you may be greater than what my wife and I are experiencing. But if you recoil and you say, are they real? I don't necessarily think that I think that they're fronting. Well, you just limited your sense of possibility. And that is stagnation. Right? So I just want to encourage people, if you're fearful of something, usually you're fearful because you do not know it. You have not experienced it. So come on board and come on over on Sundays and listen to my wife and I talk, right? See us while we're talking and make a judgment call if you need to be. Have discernment. It don't necessarily matter to me whether or not people show up. What matters to me is that we're of service and that someone is inspired. And if someone is inspired, then that's great. That's what it's all about. But don't allow your trauma, if you will, or your past experiences in male-female relationships. If you're a man, you were hurt, or if you're a woman, you were hurt. Don't allow that to get you stagnant and to consider something that may be possible for you, that is possible for you, something greater, right? And for everyone, we all deserve something greater, but we also must perceive that which is greater to be possible in the first place.
Well, it confronts, Wolf, I can say from my own experience with me and my spouse, it confronts the things that you work on and, that you need to work on. And me and my husband have listened to you all for many years and had many things come up, if you will, that we've had to deal with and we've been confronted with, and that's exactly what that does, and it's an opportunity. Now the question is, you can either put your hand on the doorknob and walk through the door, or you can actually work it out and talk it out like me and my husband. Me and my husband have had hours upon hours of conversation, even to this day, about many, many things, if you will, when it comes to the essence of our relationship, the things that we go, this journey that we're on. However, are you addicted? The question really is, are you addicted to the euphoric feeling of being in stagnation? And what is your perception on that? Because I know that, and this is a very hard question to ask oneself, am I addicted to the euphoric feeling that one receives from being in a dysfunctional way or acting in a dysfunctional way with my partner? Some people really get a euphoric, drug-like feeling off of that. They're like drug addicts, but they don't want to admit that to themselves, or they're comfortable, if you will. What are your thoughts on that, Lenon?
Yes, I mean, this happens. It's, for instance, arguing. For many people, it's a program, and it for some people, arguing makes them feel loved. You know, for some people, getting beat on makes them feel loved. I mean, we're talking about a psychological condition, but this is true. You know, for some people, you know, for the man to beat on the woman, it makes her feel like she's receiving attention. It makes her feel like she's being loved somehow, you see. So, in essence, in terms of coming from a psychological standpoint, the stagnation sometimes is what allows for the program that has been accepted to continue to perpetuate itself in the absence of a greater possibility, right? So you don't have to consider a greater possibility. Right? And, for instance, in male-female relationships, there are men who may be accustomed to dealing in a male-female relationship in a particular way. Right? Let me just throw out an example. Maybe he feels as if he doesn't necessarily have to be honorable in a sense that he must be committed only to her, that he can go out and have, you know, more relationships, you know, in the dark or what have you, like, you know, hidden away somewhere where no one else knows about, or at least his mate does not know about. Well, for some men, that experience allows him to feel as if his value is greater than it is. It's like this euphoric kind of dynamic. But is that stagnation? See, the idea is, can you become better? And if you're the type of male who is out there like that, the question becomes, can you be greater? And if you say yes, then obviously you can be, because living that way, it really does so much damage. I mean, it does damage not just to the woman, but it can potentially do damage for future generations as well. If you ask the question, can I become greater, you must come to a point where you say yes if you're honest with yourself. But are you willing to take the steps to transcend that program that has allowed you to kind of maintain that stagnation and feel, you know, as if you're greater than you really are, right? So there's many different dynamics that are wrapped up in it, and a lot of it has to do with the socialization, the media propaganda, and how men are supposed to behave, how we're supposed to think. You know, all men think about is sex. Who came up with this foolishness? You know, all men want, and when you keep saying that, then all men, you know, a majority, at least one who are victimized by the media mind control, that's what they're going to begin to think on those lines. See, but the question becomes, can you become greater? And for many of us, the concept of becoming greater, and again, this gets back to what we began the show talking about, this metamorphosis. For many of us, it's easier not to. It's almost like it's euphoric. You're stuck in limbo. You don't have to progress. But I'll tell you all, you know, for any of us who've ever been stagnant, we've all been stagnant in different areas of our lives, that there's nothing like waking up the following day when you've progressed and you look at your life and you say, you know what, I've made some progression since yesterday. See, that's where you really feel something powerful. But for some of us, because of our life experiences, sometimes the tragedy, we're looking for the tragedy, we're looking for the drama. You know, we're looking for the pain and suffering because we've become addicted to it. Maybe that was what we experienced a great deal of in our childhood. Maybe that's what our parents represented to us in terms of their relationship. Drama, problems, frustration, anger, physical abuse, sexual improprieties, whatever the case may be. And we saw that as a model. Maybe in our neighborhoods, that's what we saw as a model. Maybe on the television, that's what we saw. Maybe in the movies, that's what we saw. And so therefore it becomes a program. And we become complacent. We get to a point where we accept that program. And then we get to a point where we don't feel as if we have to progress beyond that program. And then we make statements like there's no good men out there. Or all women are gold diggers. Or are they real as opposed to is it possible? You see. So there's so many different dynamics that disrupts our sense of what's possible in our life. And in many cases, it has more to do with us accepting that it is possible for us to become something greater. But as I said before, many of us, we don't want to consider that because it would force us to kind of move beyond what we become comfortable with. And for some of us, we've become comfortable with the drama, the suffering, and the pain, and we get stagnant there, and we feel this sense of euphoria. And in many cases, we mix that up with love, and we think that the suffering and the pain and the hardship is what love is, and therefore anyone who is in love who's not experiencing that, they must not be in love, and we ask, is that real? As opposed to, is it possible for me to experience love without the pain and suffering and hardship? It's about our sense of what is possible.
And, to me, Lenon, this is one of the most, well, I can't really say I shouldn't say the most, because there are many when it comes to the manipulation of the default, if you will. But one of the greatest, because you are literally separating your reflection. You're separating the essence of man and woman. You're separating individuals, recognizing the masculine and the feminine within themselves and the respect within themselves. It causes an alchemical imbalance, if you will, and flips the alchemy on its head. So therefore, you're at war with your species half, your reflection. Then you carry that essence over into every aspect of your life, into your spiritual life, in other relationships with other people, how you progress to give to humanity, how you give and progress to yourself, how you give and progress to your community. It spills over into many other areas of one's life. Because we're not meant to function in a certain type of way. I know that we've been deceived to perceive that we're meant to be these machismo, women or men hating type of individuals, and that we can progress in this reality. However, from my standpoint, that is very much not the truth. If you will. What are some of the biggest deceptions that you have observed when you deal with people in consultation and talk about relationships, that they've been fed, if you will, from the greater essence of the hegemony? Because there are many of them that we need to break down. We need to tell the truth on.
Yes. I would say one of the biggest ones is this notion that somehow you have to make somebody else better. So you accept something that is less than what you deserve, and then you figure you can kind of mold and manufacture this structure of over the dysfunction and make that person work within the context of a male-female relationship. And I've seen this time and time again. And the central issue is, why would someone get to a point where they would compromise what they are truly deserving of and take something less and then go through the hassle of trying to work with someone to make them better? And this process of making the person better, it's not that the other person wants to become better. It's about that other individual trying to do what they can to change him or to change her into something greater in relationship. They do not work like that. That's not how relationships function. It's not supposed to function like that. There's a saying that I have, and that is that if you don't grow together, then you will grow apart. Now, this all assumes that you are both committed to growing in the first place. You can't get into a relationship and one person is interested in growing, but the other one is not. Or maybe one person is grown in a certain capacity that is far outweighed. There's a huge gap, there's huge discrepancy. But that other person that has grown in that particular area, they feel like, well, you know what, I can work with him or I can work with her on that. And I can bring that up to a point where it's functional. It doesn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the biggest things that I've seen in terms of misconceptions. A lot of this has to do with this. There's a hero that's going to come to save me for women. There's a hero out there. In many cases, it's because there was a lack of a father figure in the home as a child, so they expect the man that they are dealing with to function as their father, someone to come in and kind of take charge and tell them what to do. And then there are also this dynamic for many males where they have been so nurtured by their mother, and they were not given an opportunity, or perhaps they didn't have men present to grow them into manhood, wherein they're looked for a woman who can function as their mother. And the woman who seeks to function as the mother, therefore, begins to think that somehow she can kind of mold this boy, in essence, into a man that can serve her needs. It doesn't work that way. This is one of the biggest misconceptions. And you see, all of this is based upon the central problem, if you will. And the central problem is, in terms of male-female relationships, is a lack of understanding that divisions amongst men and women perpetuate dysfunction within male-female relationships. And it's really that simple. Divisions between men and women function to, what did I say? Divisions amongst men and women function to destabilize male-female relationships, something to that capacity. And let me just give an example of what I mean by that. If you as a man perceive women to be outside of you, then you are going to behave and interact with that woman as if she is outside of you. If as a man you perceive the woman to be part of you holistically, then you're going to behave and deal with the woman as if she is you. Now, what do I mean by this? Okay, I'm not saying that she's you literally. Okay, it's figuratively. This is called what I call the wholeness principle. Let's use the example of arguing. How many of y'all who are listening to this, how many of you argue with yourself? I mean, yell at yourself, scream at yourself, call yourself curse words, and just yell it and then argue back with yourself. How many of you do that? Okay? Let's take it a step further. How many of you men force yourself to have sex with you via manipulation, like many men do to women that they may be in a relationship with? In other words, it's I'm going to manipulate you into having sexual intercourse with you. In some cases, I'm going to make you feel bad if you don't. I'm going to demean you. I'm going to make you. You're going to feel bad if you don't have sex with me when I say so. How many of you men do that to yourself? when you're trying to force yourself to have sex with yourself, and that if you don't have sex with yourself, then you're not a good man / woman / wife / girlfriend, if you will. How many of us do that, right? We don't do that. And why don't we do that? Because you perceive yourself to be part of the wholeness of you. Well, then why not extend this, men and women? Why not extend that to your species half, the other half of you? So what am I getting at here? I know some people are like, well, oh, wow. Okay, what is he really trying to say here? Well, it's very simple. Why would I argue with my wife if I perceive her to be part of me holistically? Because to argue with her would be to argue with myself. As another example, why would I leave my son and my sons and daughters if I perceive them to be half of myself? Can I leave myself? No. You can't leave yourself. So this is one of the big misconceptions that we have been given in terms of socialization, is to always perceive others as being outside of you. When we talk about cosmic respectability, this is the antithesis of cosmic respectability. To cease to perceive the intricate nature and the interactions of all things in existence, and how all things in existence is really reflective of a whole. And that wholeness is the orientation that we must have when it comes to male-female relationships. So this is to say that I can't argue with my wife, because to argue with my wife would be to argue with me. This is to say that after many years of personal refinement, I can no longer try to force my wife to have sex with me by begging like a little boy, because in essence what I'm doing is I'm begging myself to have sex with me. And that's a very dishonorable place to be as a man. That is a very unfortunate place to be as a man. And be quite honest with you, that's a very embarrassing place to be as a man. So this is what I call the wholeness principle, and one of the most important things that we can do as a species is begin to reinterpret our relational construct to where men do not perceive women to be outside of them, and women do not perceive men to be outside of them. That they see each other as being part of the same whole, and therefore our relationship will therefore be holistic. When we perceive ourselves to be outside of ourselves, that's the division. Divisions always create problems. Even race-based divisions create problems. All these divisions, and many of these divisions based upon illusions. Illusions always create problems. There's no good men out there. That's a division. All men are dogs. That's a division. Women are gold diggers. That's a division. She don't look good because her hair ain't long. That's a division. You see, all of this causes problems. And then we wonder why we have these issues with male-female relationships. And then when someone come along like my wife and I who really work hard in terms of our interactions early on to set a proper foundation for our relationship, they come around and people ask, is that real? Speaking of foundations, another thing I've noticed is that an adequate foundation is not established in male-female relationships from the beginning. And one of the major reasons why is because people are making decisions far too soon in terms of male-female relationships. They make commitments within male-female relationships far too soon. They may be 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, don't even know why they're here on the planet, and yet they're involved in dating and getting into relationships. This is very problematic. In the first place, know why you're here. I mean, for people to really think about this, you have a certain amount of time on the planet. Okay, we know that. Okay, so the clock is ticking. Okay, that's understandable. But there's also a window in terms of when you can begin a male-female relationship. There's a window for that too. Okay, so obviously when you're 10, that's not a time where you should be worrying about that. I would propose that when you're 17, 18, 19, 20, that's not a time where you should really be worrying about that. That should be a time where, if you have not already found what your purpose is, you need to be actively engaged in the process of finding out why you are here, why you are here on the planet in the first place. See, when you know thyself, then when you begin to structure a relationship, the foundation will be more adequate. Because if you know yourself, you're not going to go into a relationship that is the antithesis of you knowing yourself, meaning that if you value yourself, you're not going to go into a relationship where your value is less than what you know your value to be. You're not going to go into a relationship wherein that relationship does not support why you are here. Does this make sense to everyone? If you have that level of understanding, but see, for many of us, much of this has to do with the media manipulation and all this program we get that we got to be in relationships, we got to be out here dating and not on the prowl. And this is what makes you a man. Being out on the prowl, trying to find a date or trying to find a woman to have sex with, or even trying to find a woman to establish a relationship with, that's not manhood. That's not manhood at all. That's just a program we've been given that's what we're supposed to do, and that's what society says men are supposed to do. I'll tell you all right now, ain't what men are supposed to be doing. What we need to be doing is refining our internal being, finding out why we are here on the planet so that when we get into a relationship, we'll have something of value to offer. And in that relationship will be reflective and will support why we are here. This is one of the beautiful things about my wife. Like, she knows why she's here. I know why I'm here. She supports why I'm here. I support why. It's the wholeness principle. That's another one of the dynamics, just to make this clear with people, that we make these decisions about who we're going to be having sexual relationships with, having male-female relationships with, having children with, without in the first place knowing why we are here on the planet. Well, this is a formula for failure when it comes to male-female relationships. And I'm going to tell everyone right now that if you can't do it, and that's okay, raise your children so that they do this. And simply put, make sure that they know why they are here on the planet prior to them beginning to actively pursue male-female relationships. This is to say that, traditionally speaking, males were raised into men prior to them pursuing a mate, if you will, prior to them establishing a family institution. It's called a rites of passage. Young girls were adequately prepared for womanhood in advance. It's not something you just jump into. And there are many people who jump into male-female relationships far too soon. I mean, it's just like children coming out of high school. You're not prepared for that. We're not. I was not prepared to establish a positive male-female relationship when I came up out of high school at the age of 17 or getting out of college. I wasn't prepared for that. There was a process that I had to go through. So that's another thing. I mean, people got to be patient. Now, a lot of this programming gets us to where we become desperate. We've been watching too many Disney films with Disney princess. We've been watching too many rap videos where you see all these men with all these half-naked women around. I mean, we've been watching too many of these movies where these men are like these sexual beasts out there on the prowl. We mimic these types of things. I'm not teaching my sons that mess because that doesn't prepare them to be in service to women. Therefore, if you're not in service to women, how are you going to expect to be able to establish a long-standing male-female relationship? I mean, there's so many different illusions that we are given that stagnates. Again, there's that word again. Stagnates our progressions so that when we get to a point where we can actually establish a positive male-female relationship. And so it's gotten to the point nowadays where people don't even perceive it to be possible. Are they real? As opposed to asking, is it possible in the first place? And there are many people who have given up hope. There's many people who are at a point where it's like, look, it's never going to happen for me. It's not possible for me. Well, if you believe that will be your reality, but if you believe that and you have children, make sure that that's not their reality. And there are things that we can do. I got to say one other thing I was thinking about here today. It's not enough to solve problems because problems are perpetual. It's not enough to solve problems because problems are perpetual. As a species, what do we have to do? We have to get to a point in our spiritual evolution where we can minimize problems in the first place. In other words, develop a solution to the problem in advance of the problem occurring so that when the problem arises, the problem has no impact. This is a different level of thinking, too, by the way. Most people, we're not trained to think this way, right? So instead of trying to, like, figure out what the problem is and trying to figure out a solution, why is it that he's not committed in this relationship? Well, that's a problem. So you're trying to find a solution to the problem. But you didn't prepare yourself in advance, and no one prepared and gave you the insight of the wisdom so that you can have accurate discernment as to the type of male you should have been involved with in the first place. You see what I'm getting at here? That's what we got to get to as a species, having the proper discernment. See, it's like you can deal with the symptoms all day. You know, why isn't she attracted to me like she used to be? You know, well, that's a problem. Why didn't she want to have sex with me like she used to? Well, that's a problem. But did you prepare yourself as a man to whether you can maintain that passion that was there in the beginning? Did you do that? No, I didn't do that. Well, that's because you didn't prepare for a problem that may have come down the line that would have come if you had been properly prepared. Or if you had done what you need to do in advance of the problem taking place, the problem would never even manifested. Because you would have already fueled the passion that would have maintained or would have been able to be maintained in the relationship indefinitely, or at least until you're about 75. Y'all see my point here?
Yeah.
In male relationships, we're always trying to deal with the symptoms as opposed to dealing with the healing that really needs to take place. And the healing is really a reconstruction as to how the types of foundations that we set in male-female relationships. And for many of us, the foundation that we set is based upon illusions and divisions, a lack of a wholeness type of an orientation, and then we wonder why our male-female relationships are in the condition that we are in. And I'll say this one last thing real quickly here, sis, that part of us coming back into the realm of cosmic respectability is also about us restructuring how we relate to each other as men and women, as masculine and feminine, as feminine beings. If we can transform this relational model to where it's holistic, it will also begin to transform our relationship to the cosmos, which is also holistic.
Absolutely. And what you're saying is very pertinent because it made me think of individuals that I know in my life who are married and are in I'm going to say it. We just keeping it real here. We're all adults who are in sexless, non-emotional, non-passionate marriages. And that's an issue as well if we want to keep it real and be truthful here. So, you know, all of this is pertinent to preparing oneself for a relationship, and also people who are already in marriages and relationships that are they're just existing with invisible partners. They're not really there. And Lenon, you have a caller on the line. We have a caller from 215-796. You're live on the air. Welcome to today's show network. Greetings.
Hi. Hello. Hi. It's Emily. Hi, Lenon. Hi, Radia.
Hey, sis.
Hi.
How you doing?
I was just listening. I think it's so fascinating because this is exactly what I'm going through right now.
Uh-oh.
And I would say, like, I just broke up with my boyfriend, but the universe is so miraculous and that it's teaching me a lot of stuff about myself. And that I realized that I was in a relationship with somebody, but I really wasn't in a relationship with them. I was in a relationship with what I wanted. And coming out of that, I realized that you have to learn to love yourself first. And then as you learn to love yourself, then you can begin to manifest that relationship where you have spiritual compatibility with somebody. So it's just really amazing and very cool that you happen to be talking about this right now. But also it has a lot to do with media because I'm 25, and when I talk to my friends, they think I'm crazy. They're like, "You want to what? You want to have a family? You don't want to, you don't want to just, be free." And it's just like before I started listening to you and listening to, you and your wife about positive relationships, I was kind of ashamed to, subconsciously that I wanted to have a family and that I wanted to, raise children. As a woman, you think, okay, that's what we're supposed to do. But then you have this flip side, well, I'm supposed to be a career woman, I'm supposed to make money. If I'm not making money, if I'm not doing something in society, then I'm not really anybody. But, like you said, you have to have the idea of becoming greater. And, when you see other people doing it, you're like, oh, that's possible for me. So there's so many levels, because that translates to, what do you think about yourself? How do you, what's your relationship with any quote-unquote God that you have? Do you have a relationship where that God being, I guess, is you're subservient to that, or do you have an empowering view of that? When you have an empowering view, you can empower, like, other aspects of your life become empowered. So it's just it's a snowball effect, because in the beginning, people don't want to question, because their view to, I guess, as you say, their relationship to the cosmos, they look at themselves as less than. And when you start to look at yourself as that you have the possibility to do something, then your whole world is open to you. So then you can begin to say, okay, I want to manifest this for myself. So thank you. Thank you very much for, inspiring, and, and I think it's so great that, you have your teachings, I guess, for free, and you're doing your part to help the universe. So, yeah, I just wanted to call in to say that.
Oh, thank you so much for your kind words, sis. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. That's it.
Thank you, sweetie, for calling in. We enjoyed your comment. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, guys.
You're so welcome, and that's wonderful to hear. She made a couple of points. I'll just real quickly here. There is a program that has been running for some time, and it's this program of family versus free, or family versus freedom. So you hear people say things like, if you have children, your life is going to be over. Well, that's just like someone saying, if you get into a male-female relationship, he's going to cheat. Or if you get in a male-female relationship, she's only going to want you for your money. You see, it's a limiting kind of an orientation. And it's interesting because this program, in terms of, family versus freedom, see, some of us, we may feel like we're entitled to our life to where we can do whatever we want to, that we came here to do whatever we want to, and maybe we can be free. We can date as long as we want to. We have sex with as many people as we want to, and we can hurt people in the process, and there's no repercussion. In other words, you can be here on the planet living like an animal. Well, that's up to you. But when we talk about the spiritual, in terms of spiritualizing the human being and ascending the species back into cosmic respectability, there is a level of responsibility that we must have for our life, where we recognize that we're here not just for ourselves, that there is a greater purpose. Now, family as an institution is vital to this. And that's why a lot of the programming that you get through media is really the stabilization of the family unit. Everything is the value of the family unit. The music that is promoted, and the television shows, is always in the movies, it's all to divide the family unit. How so? Because it always deals with how we relate to each other as men and women. And if you can give a faulty model in terms of how we relate to each other as men and women, where there's a division, we're in competition with each other, well, then now you've destabilized the potentiality for men and women to come together and create a positive family institution. Now, why is that problematic? Because we can look at this. I mean, it's really deep when people really think about it. I mean, this is a serious program. Why is that problematic? Because essentially, whose responsibility is it to teach you, initially, to teach you to love thyself? Who is it that teaches you this? It is to be your mama and your daddy. In other words, that which created you teaches you to love yourself. To know thyself, to love thyself, to value thyself. And therefore, if it is your creator, meaning your mom and your daddy, what is the institution that does that and provides for the environment? It's the family institution, you see. So see, for many of us, because we may not have been taught to love ourselves by that family institution, maybe the family institution was dysfunctional. There are a lot of families that are simply dysfunctional. People just kind of living together because someone decided to get married, and it's not like they're in a relationship that they really care for, so much so that they're married. It's a legal binding contract. They're becoming a corporation, if you will. So in this sense, I just want to make it clear, because I go on and on, but it is a family institution responsibility. It is that which creates you to teach you how to love yourself as a child. And because many of us, we were not taught that, later on in life, we began to go through this process of getting into male-female relationship, trying to love somebody else without even knowing how to love ourselves. That's not going to work. How is it possible? How are you going to love someone? How are you going to provide someone with spiritual illumination if you haven't come to a level of spiritual illumination yourself? How are you going to teach somebody about proper diet if you're sitting, in secret, you're up here eating McDonald's or smoking cigarettes? You see what I'm saying? How you going to teach somebody about a male-female relationship, what a positive male-female relationship is? You ain't never been in a positive male-female relationship, and I've seen this time and time again. I wish these people would just kind of just look, get some tape, cover your mouth. If you're not in a positive relationship and you haven't been in a positive relationship, then you should not be speaking about positive relationships. What you can speak about is negative relationships. You can talk about what it feels like to be alone. You can provide the formula for failure, but you cannot provide the formula for success as it relates to male-female relationships. If your business is failing and it fails perpetually and it hasn't worked out, you should not be giving advice on how to develop a positive or a lucrative business. What you can do is give advice on what not to do. But there's a difference between what you should not do in order for success versus what you should do in order for success. When you provide people with what they should do or what they can do to become successful, that is empowering, you see. So it's interesting how she brought up that dynamic where we talk about this need to love someone else, but essentially it's important for one to love oneself in the first place. And in essence, it is the family institution. It should be the mother and the father. It should be that which created you, that instills in you that self-worth, that self-value, that teaches you to love yourself. That's why when I speak to my daughters, oh, you are so pretty. Come here, baby. Come here. This daddy want to give you a hug. You are so precious. I'm teaching them, right? I'm allowing them to feel loved. I'm allowing them to feel this experience of this man who cares for them. Same thing with my sons. Oh, man, son, I am so proud. You did a good job cleaning that up. Give me a hug, boy. Give him a hug. Kiss him on his head. Rub his forehead a little bit. I'm providing him with this experience of love so that he can learn this as a behavior pattern that I can love myself too, in essence. I'm loved, therefore I can love myself. When you're not loved, you can't really get to a point where you feel like you can love yourself. And for many people in male-female relationships, you've been so beat down and bad in the male-female relationship, you got to the point where now a positive relationship you can't even perceive to be possible. Then you jump into a relationship and it doesn't work out and you realize, wait a minute, how I'm trying to love this person, I can't even love myself in the first place. Well, whose responsibility was it initially to teach you how to love yourself? That which created you, your mama and your daddy. That's why the family institution is so very important. I'm going to say this too. For those of y'all, one of the other things that I've noticed in terms of a pattern for relationships where you see perpetual failure in male-female relationships is wherein an individual gets into a relationship, it fails, and soon after they jump into another one.
Mm-hmm.
We have got to stop doing that because what's taking place is the damage that was incurred in that previous relationship that failed, all the pain and suffering, you put it inside of a box and you put it on your back. And then instead of getting that box off your back, meaning go through the healing process, you carry that baggage into the next relationship. And then that relationship begins to fail, and all the pain and suffering you put into another box. You take that box, put it on your back, you get out that relationship, and then you jump to another one. Now you got two boxes on your back of stuff. And each time you stack a box on top of your back, you're dealing with the pain and suffering, having healed from the pain and suffering, and you're bringing that into the new relationship, and then you expect the new relationship to be successful. It don't work like that. You must go through the healing process. Take some time off. Take a breath. You deserve it. Relax a little bit. But see, the programming, for many of us, the programming is so deep. We've been given this program that always got to be in a relationship. We always got to be out there on the prowl. We got to be dating like these little children in high school. That's where the program coming from. And for some of us, it's because we didn't have a father in the home, so therefore we must continue to try to find some man to be our father. And for many males, it's like, we didn't feel like we were treated right by our mother, so we always got to be looking for some woman all the time. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, just take some time off and go through the healing process. Heal from that issue that your father wasn't there. Heal from that issue that your mama didn't treat you right. See, we're always dealing with the symptoms and the behavior patterns that are symptomatic of the deeper core issues. And the core issue for many of us, that's why this call was so important. The core issue for many of us is that we were not taught how to love ourselves in the first place. And part of self-love is to have a level of self-value and self-worth. Self-value and self-worth, as I share in some of my lecture series for women and for men, is the foundation for a positive relationship. How you value yourself and the work that you place on yourself will be indicative of the quality of the relationship that you will have with another human being. And that is vital.
It is very vital. And also, Lenon, it seems that you dig not to the root, but to the seed of the spiritual scar that one is received from childhood, because that's where it begins. It begins in the family institution and the indoctrination of variables that have been handed to you by your creators, your mother and father. And I have to tell you from experience, if you don't deal with that, you carry that physical / spiritual illuminated scar within your being, and you transfer it over into every single relationship, and it layers on top of each other. So not only do you have the emotional, physical, and spiritual scar that has been handed down to you, you carry that seed and you collect all of these spiritual scars through every relationship that you trodden through. And you have all of these spiritual cords. And it's very vital that you said that after each relationship, so on and so forth, that we go to the seed, not to the root, but to the seed of the of the pain, the wound, the spiritual connection. Because y'all know, y'all listen to me and Lenon on the HO Network, and you know that I think from a metaphysical standpoint, we are more than just organic beings. We literally have an etheric cord that is attached to every single human being that we've ever had sex with, y'all. Etheric cord. And you literally give your energy to another organic human being. So mind you, your physical being has left the relationship. However, your emotional fabric, your spiritual fabric is still embedded in that past relationship. You know why and how I know this? Because you'll be sitting up in the house with the new boyfriend or the new girlfriend, and what you're doing, you're thinking about the person of the past. You're thinking about, well, I wonder what this person is doing. Oh, I'm lonely, so let me go out and get another person. When you have emotional seeds that are attached in that way, that spiritual seed, it presents itself from a psychological, emotional, and consciousness level. And that lets you know that you still have a psychological, psychosomatic connection with that individual that needs to be cut from a psychological and spiritual level, because I've done it, and that's why I can speak on it.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Another thing I got to say, I know, with some people it may make you uncomfortable or may make them uncomfortable, but we have to be completely honest here. One of the formulas for failures in relationship is to have sex with people that you would not even consider raising a family with.
Indeed.
And I know society has told us the opposite, right? We've been told this, that we're supposed to be out here living like animals. Again, when we talk about spiritualization of the species, it's about transcending this biological entity so that it stops behaving like an animal. It begins to reach beyond its autonomic functioning. It therefore has spiritual consciousness. It begins to actively choose. It can therefore begin to make a new reality, if you will, on planet Earth that is much more spiritually evolved for the sake of that which created it. See, that is the spiritual element to this. But if we're living like animals, we're not going to be able to. In essence, living like animals is stagnation. Right? If you took a child and you did not raise it up, it's going to live like an animal. It's going to eat when it needs to. It's going to sleep when it needs to. It's going to have sex when it gets to a point where physiologically it becomes desirable or becomes part of its a possibility without any conscious thought. And many of us, we living like that and have been living like that. Some of us still living like that, having sex with any old body that we can as an unconscious act. Well, that's no different than an animal that does that. Right? Is there any difference? No, there's no difference whatsoever. This is like Hurry My Cat, or what they call Sphinx in Kemet, or what people call ancient Egypt, in terms of the symbolism there. You have the body of an animal in the head of a lion, the body of a lion in the head of a human being, or the body of an animal in the head of a human being. The head of the human being being the higher nature, if you will. You even look at it in terms of the chakras going from the bottom base chakra all the way up to the top. Most of us are operating on those lower chakras when it comes to sex and sexual intercourse. How we even conceptualize it is based upon that lower aspect. That is where we're living like an animal, that lower part or that lower half of Hurry My Cat or the Sphinx. Well, and you got on the upper levels, you have spiritual illumination, spiritual consciousness. You have consciousness itself. You have the ability to perceive the spiritual significance of your life, where you begin to be able to reach and you begin to tame that lion, that body, if you will. You begin to tame that animalistic nature, that lower nature, if you will. Well, for many of us, what we've been raised to basically live like animals with the porn and with the movies where it's always about sex and having sex wherever you can, the music where it's always about sex. I mean, when was the last time you heard a song or you saw a movie where it was about establishing a positive and optimal relationship or a family institution or raising your children appropriately? You get the opposite, though. You get plenty of the opposite. There's a reason why. Because stagnation does not inspire. You see, that's why it's a program. Most people were not inspired to live even better or to inspire to live better, or even to conceptualize sexual intercourse as being something greater than this animalistic type of engagement. And then this becomes the premise upon which we bring children into the world. I mean, really got to think about this. So each and every one of us, in terms of our sexual activity, one of the foundational aspects in terms of creating a negative relationship and perpetual failure, never have sex with somebody that you're not willing to raise a family with. It's really that simple. So this basically means that you can't be out here having sex with any old body that you don't know. One night stands, living like animals. Having sex with any old body that you don't know. You don't know who, if they had sex with somebody. They could have had sex with an animal just prior to having sex with you, or they could have just molested a child just prior to having sexual intercourse with you, and therefore that becomes part of your energetic field. Mm-hmm. And then we wonder why our male-female relationships fail. See, the whole orientation is backwards. So one of the things I just want to let people know, and see, for some of us it's too late. So because this time thing is something that is of essence. This time thing, we're only here on the planet. That's why we don't have time to be playing games and playing around and just kind of living foolishly, living like animals. We don't have time for that. We're only here for a short period of time within the scope of the cosmic experience, if you will, as a biological entity. For some of us, it's too late for us to get on track with that. But teach your children this. Teach the boy down the street or the girl that comes by every once in a while waves. Hey, look, when you get older, don't be having sex with people unless you're willing to create a child, or unless you're willing to, unless that person has the qualities that wherein they can be a father, a good father to your children. Let that be the standard by which, not how they look or what kind of rims they got on their car, or how much money they got, or if they're pretty or if they're not pretty. I mean, the whole orientation is backwards. It should be about that which sustains the species and progresses the species spiritually. And whether or not a person is dressed nice, or they have a nice car with rims on them, or they look pretty, that's not going to sustain the species. I mean, that's not going to produce an environment on Earth where we can begin to perch our cocoons and metamorphosize into the butterfly that we always hope to be. But the programming got us living like animals. So we have sex with whoever we want to. I'm telling y'all right now, that is a formula for failure, time and time again. If you want to establish a positive male-female relationship, you should not even be having sex with someone unless you know that this person will function as a good husband or a good wife. It's really that simple. That they can function as a good mother or a good father. It's really that simple.
And what's deep about what you're saying, because I'm looking, you know that I eventually go to the metaphysical realm of reality. The default has humanity emotionally engineered to function within the capability of the reptilian brain, which is the lower chakra essence of the mundane world of reality. And what that does is that locks the organic human being from evolutionizing into the higher realms of consciousness. And this is why you will hear people say, well, I can't use my imagination. I don't remember my dreams. I can't do this. I can't do that, because they have human beings from a sexual aspect of reality locked into the lower chakras and the lower aspects of being. And just another reminder to the family, and why I so passionately endorse the Positive Relationship series, is because of the simple fact the essence and energy from a spiritual standpoint of sex is the most powerful essence on planet Earth. It not only creates human beings, it is the manifester of anything that happens in the material world of reality. Sex happens in many different forms. For instance, all of the listeners who are listening, all of the people on my switchboard, me and Lenon, Aida listening in the other room, we are all having intercourse. We are creating and exchanging information through our collective consciousness and taking in information and transforming that information within our cosmic being, our head, whether we're speaking or not, or processing on our own. So the elements of creation and sex, it goes much farther than what we have been brainwashed to perceive as just creating another organic human being. We are creating children all over planet Earth, not just our legacy within our organic line. We are creating thought forms. We are creating dreams. We are manifesting our worst nightmares. We are manifesting heaven on earth. We are manifesting hell. All in this duality through the essence of our relationship with man and woman, our relationship with self. And this is why this series is so important, and I just had to get that off my chest, because this is mundane in nature. However, it goes so much far beyond that we can't even perceive and conceive.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I should say this. I guess it came to mind. You know, most people, they would look at my wife and they would, and I, we have 5 children. They would say, well, it's not like y'all seem to have any level of sexual discipline, because part of it is sexual discipline. You know, for many of us, we're not sexually disciplined. I mean, we can look at this many levels, especially early on. We're raised in a particular way where, you know, sex is just something that we kind of do. There's no discipline in it. We may have sex with whoever we may want to have sex with no kind of attachment, or at least we perceive that there is no attachment, or we may perceive that there's no need to establish a friendship or to have any kind of significant relationship with that individual. So that's a form of I guess we can say of a lack of sexual discipline, being sexually undisciplined. And then also within the context of sexual intercourse, for a man to be undisciplined, meaning that he does not have the capacity to maintain his erection long enough to be able to please his mate. And again, now this is something that I teach in my manhood lecture series. This is something that men need to learn how to do, and this is part of being sexually, having a level of sexual discipline. That it's not just about you climaxing, it's also about engaging this experience so that enough time passes to where not only are you fulfilled physically, and she is fulfilled physically, but then there's also a spiritual dimension that manifests out of it that you both realize and recognize that you ultimately want to get to. This is part of what takes place in sexual intercourse. But I want people to understand this, that we have 5 children, but my wife and I, in terms of our sexual activity, y'all would be surprised. Like, for instance, it wasn't until like maybe, and this is what I mean, my wife and I, we speak candidly, because these are things that mothers need to be teaching their daughters and fathers need to be teaching their sons. I mean, these are things that I should have learned when I was 13, when I was 12, when I was 11, when I was 10. But see, in society, these are the times we're out here playing video games. You know, we're gossiping because it's part of the program. We're gossiping about what she said or what he did. You know, we're doing all these frivolous types of things. Again, what is possible for the species? Can we evolve beyond the point where we don't have to get to the age of 36, and then we have like a level of spiritual understanding? Can this take place when we're 25? Can this take place when we're 15? Can this take place when we're 5 years old? See, but my wife and I, it wasn't until like maybe 2 months ago when we began to have sexual intercourse again. And prior to that, we had not had sexual intercourse for over a year. And most people be like, what do you mean? And yet our relationship is perfectly fine. I mean, it's wonderfully blessed, right? And see, the intercourse part of it, and this is something we talked about this on the radio show, because we get so caught up in this whole dynamic, and it's part of it is just taps into our animalistic nature. Like many of us, sex is just an avenue for us to express our beast-like nature. It doesn't. For many of us, we don't have this deeper spiritual significance to it. And one of the things in terms of why I'm bringing this up is because in terms of my wife and I in our relationship, sex only plays a very small fraction of the interaction. In essence, for many of y'all, if you count up the amount of time the time that you have sex, let's say over a week, and then you count up the amount of time that you don't have sex, it's going to be less than 1% of your time when you're actually having sexual intercourse. Less than 1%. And yet we're led to believe that the foundation of the relationship must be on this 1%. Now, that 1% is very valuable, especially when it has a spiritual dimension to it. But if it's only 1% and that 1% is based upon a more animalistic nature, that's very damaging. And it really devalues sex and sexual intercourse and the meaning and significance. So you have something that you only do less than 1% of the time, and yet our whole approach is based upon this animalistic orientation. So, again, if we're going to get this species back on track to cosmic respectability, and this is where we talk about the spiritualization of the species, that 1% needs to be spiritualized, and it needs to be spiritualized with a level of deep concentration, if you will. The spiritualization must be concentrated. And therefore, if you take a spiritual approach to sexual intercourse, you won't be out there having sex with any old body. I mean, because you don't know who that person is. You don't know where they come from. You don't know if that dude just had his penis inside someone's anus. Look, I got to say it like it is. He may just have had his penis in someone's anus and now he's put it inside your vagina. I mean, please, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, really think about this. And we wonder why male-female relationships are failing. He may have just had his penis inside someone's anus and then asked you to perform fellatio on him. And then we wonder why male-female relationships are failing. Or the woman may just have sex with 4 or 5 dudes, and then you tickle, and their semen still inside her vagina, and then because you take this animalistic approach, you're going to go and put your penis inside that vagina and have other dudes' semen inside of it? I mean, we gotta really talk about this. I mean, as adults, I mean, set out the glamorized Hollywood stage show that we've been given, and set out, just discard with the taboo thing. Because even though we can perceive these things to be mundane, understand that there was a spiritual consequence to these types of things. There was a deeply spiritual consequence to these types of things, and that spiritual consequence, in terms of male-female relationships, it becomes a formula for failure. So this is to say, this is one of the things I teach inside my manhood lecture series is that men, you must learn to value your penis. You must honor it. It's not something that you should just be using on any old body just because. Transcend that animalistic nature. And women, you got to value your vaginas. And women, in general, are taught to value their vaginas to a greater degree than men are taught to value their penis. Because men are taught that we're supposed to just be out here on the prowl trying to have sex with whoever we want to. So any woman we can stick our penis in, it's okay. Whereas women, in terms of there's a level of reserve, and part of it is because they've been taught this. You know, you have your menstrual cycle. Therefore, you have to take better care of your vagina. It becomes something that each month they remind you that it's something that's valuable. But then it's also this other dynamic that you are the one that has the capacity to actually become pregnant. So therefore, you have to be on guard a little bit more. Really, a lot more, to be quite honest with you. But this is all to say that these are the things that we need to be teaching our children. You know, son, when you're able to start having sexual, just because you are able to have sexual intercourse does not mean that you should be having sexual intercourse. And if a woman comes up to you that doesn't know you and is interested in having sexual intercourse with you, you ask the question: is this the type of woman that I would want to raise a family with? Do I know her well enough to make that to ascertain whether or not she is the type of woman that I would want to raise a family with? Is she the type of woman that I would want to be the grandmother to my grandchildren? You see, tell my daughters, look, just because you're at a position in your life now, physiologically speaking, that you can have sexual intercourse doesn't mean that you should be having sexual intercourse. In essence, you have the capacity to create life. This is a profound responsibility. You are the life bearer here on planet Earth. So therefore, your value, my dear daughter, is far more greater than any other being on the planet, because you are the greatest creative force here on the planet. See, if we teach our children to value themselves on this level, they won't be out here living like animals. But we have to maintain that family institution. And we have to get to a point where we inside of our own minds, as a spiritual practice, we recognize that male-female relationships are so valuable, and that male-female relationships are the foundation of the family institution. And therefore, as a spiritual practice, our focus should be maximizing the probability of having a positive male-female relationship. And there's that word. Is it probable? Is it possible? And the answer is yes. And we have to start somewhere. And my wife and I, we're doing our best to teach our children these types of things. We're doing our best to make sure that our family, and we got a lot of struggles. But one thing is certain, we're not stagnant, and we're always trying to improve. And by providing this example to our children, it is our hope, and it's really our mission, that they come into adulthood, but not only do they value themselves, and that my sons recognize that they have a cosmic responsibility to be in service and to be the protectors of women, but that also my daughters have an understanding as to their creative responsibility, meaning that they are the ultimate creator here on planet Earth, and therefore their womb must therefore be sacred, and therefore they must be responsible for that sacred place. That includes the understanding that what enters into that sacred place must also be accompanied with someone who is also sacred. And the truth of the matter is that many males, we're not living on a level where we consider ourselves to be sacred, let alone projecting that out into the universe. And this is something that I will be teaching my sons, that you must become an honorable man, and that which is connected to you must also be honorable, and that which you do must also be honorable, including sexual intercourse. And so as it relates to establishing positive male-female relationships, as we begin with this particular issue, it is vital that individuals recognize that the act of sexual intercourse should not be taken lightly, and the act of sexual intercourse is really the gateway through which we connect to each other on a metaphysical level. Therefore, the level of spiritual responsibility attached to sexual intercourse must be on that level. And when we take that approach, we will not be out here living like animals, having sex with any old body. And you will recognize this. If y'all do, just ask people that you know. You look at people who have been out there having sexual intercourse, or maybe currently having sexual intercourse, just like with any old body. Are they in positive male-female relationships? The answer is absolutely not. See, the behavior pattern itself does not foster positive male-female relationships. The behavior pattern itself is the antithesis of establishing a positive male-female relationship. So, for those of y'all, if you are interested in establishing a positive male-female relationship, a long-standing relationship, and some of us are not, but if you are, understand that primarily one of the fundamental things you can do is to not have sexual intercourse with anybody that you would not consider to be worthy of raising a family with.
And that's very important, Lenon, because I know that we have had many conversations about the metaphysical and the spiritual aspect of sex, and we're birthing many things into our lives and into this environment that we are just so unaware of. And we need to be more aware of these things. where, people are walking around getting their animalistic groove on. However, they're manifesting certain things in their reality that they can't even figure out where they manifested it from. Has it ever occurred to anyone? Well, the person that you may have gotten your animalistic booty call from may have spiritually transferred over into your realm of reality some darkness that has caused certain downfalls in your reality of being. See, we don't think about these things, but we have to start thinking about these things, and we also have to remember that this environment in which we live, if we have our I want my vision back glasses on, moves in a very ritualistic way, and they understand, do not be fooled, family. They understand the metaphysics of having a warlike position with the male and female relationship. They understand what it means for you to go to the club and to take in spirits every Friday and Saturday night while you get your groove on the dance floor with ritualistic music and the beat of the drum and the dark environment. They understand the metaphysics of that. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just and you talked about this before, Lenon, about how people are actually being possessed, if you will, and emotionally engineered to behave in a certain type of way, and then they're not understanding what's really going on. And this is why I really love this series, because it shows you the possibility of what can happen, and of man and woman, and also to have your glasses on, so when you see certain things, you can recognize what is going on with yourself and outside of yourself. And this is very much important, and you have to be candid. So it don't bother me. You can say whatever, and I know what the jig is. So we have to be truthful and honest here. We can't sweep these things under the rug, because the more you sweep them under the rug, the more they get bigger and progressively get worse. We have to be honest with ourselves if one wants to gain full fulfillment.
Yes. And in the end, it's about getting the species back on track. I mean, this is just one example. We can use male-female relationship. It's just vital, because it is essentially it's the male-female relationship that establishes the family institution. It's the family institution that ultimately teaches us what love is. That's really what it comes down to. It teaches us what love is. It teaches us how to love ourselves. And the mother and the father should epitomize that. We should epitomize the highest level of love, and our children should be able to see that. I mean, if we're arguing with each other and fucking fighting, then our children become confused, right? And therefore, they see this type of behavior. If a man beating on a woman, their children become confused. Is that love? What is love? And then we get to a certain age, and we're confused about what love is in the first place. Isn't that really what it comes down to? Do we know what love is? That's really what it comes down to. And if we want to ascend the species back into the realm of cosmic respectability, we got to deal with that central issue. What is love in the first place? It is love, which is what got us here as a species. It was an act of love through which this species manifested here and materialized here by that which created it. It was an act of love. But do we know what that is? Do we know what love is in the first place? And many of us, our experiences, we had so many traumatic experiences. We had so much drama, so much pain. We haven't gone through the healing process. Love to us, we see it, and we may see it in other people, and we say, is that real? We got to get to a point where everything is real, but is everything relevant, and is everything possible for you? That's the real question. Is it possible? And I'll tell everyone that it is possible for each and every one of us to experience a positive male-female relationship. It's possible. I mean, I grew up in a home without a stable, male-female relationship in the home. Father was abusive to my mother physically, verbally. He was on drugs, alcohol. All kinds of living in poverty. I never really saw the positive expression of male-female relationships, but I didn't give up. I always had in the back of my mind, I'm just going to keep refining myself. I'm going to be prepared so that when it manifests, I'm going to have something that I can offer. And then here we are when I'm 25 years old. My wife manifested, materialized into my space. And we're able to build a family institution together and have a wonderful 11-year marriage. We've got 5 beautiful babies. And, we're living our life. And it's possible for each and every one of us, but it takes work. It takes dedication. And above all else, we can't get stagnant. Stagnation does not inspire. And the experience of male-female relationship, it is an inspirational experience. And that's what we try to give and when we try to provide to other people, my wife and I. We just want to inspire people to consider the possibility. That's all. Just consider it as a possibility. That don't mean it's going to happen 5 seconds from now, although it's possible. It doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow, although it is possible. But just consider the possibility in your life. And I also want to encourage any of y'all. I do personal consultations because there's a lot of this stuff in terms of our inability to materialize certain things, especially male from a relationship. It ain't got nothing to do with who we are today. I'm telling y'all right now, I know that sounds kind of crazy. It ain't got nothing. They don't have much to do with who we are today. It has to do with who we were and not moving beyond who we were. And a lot of who we were is based upon those childhood experiences that we never healed from. Those are the blockages. And I've been able to help people in this regard. I mean, I've gotten to a point where I've realized that doing personal consultations in terms of the impact that it has is far more profound than writing a book or doing a documentary or doing a movie or doing a radio show or do a radio interview. So I want to encourage y'all, go head on up to Lenon Honor. If you got issues that you've been trying to work through, I know that I can help you. I've been helping people, and it's a profound experience for me, and I'm learning so much. And in the process, I'm helping other people. I have a consultation services there on LenonHonor.com. Just click on the link in the navigation bar that says consultation. I want to help people, and this is one of the ways that I'm able to do it. This relationship thing is so vital. We have to get to a point where we construct what's possible in our minds, but sometimes the possibility is jaded because of what we experience inside of our lives, and we may have experienced so much pain and suffering that the possibility seems to be an impossible. That what is possible seems to be impossible. And what is impossible becomes the norm, if you will. Well, I want people to understand that ultimately it's for you to decide what is possible in your life. And you are deserving of experiencing a positive male-female relationship. You are deserving of having a wonderful relationship with a man or a wonderful relationship with a woman. It does take work. It does take commitment, but it can be done. If my wife and I can do it, and all the stuff we've been through in our lives growing up, then you can too. But you have to understand that it's possible. My wife, she's always believed it is possible. I've always believed it is possible, and we've been blessed because of it.
Well, I feel like tonight we got a lot accomplished. People have been texting me, and they're like, oh, it was right on time. This was synchronicity, family, if you will. And I feel like my glass is most definitely half full, and I thank you so much. Time goes by so fast when you're on the line. I never know.
Is it already time?
It is already time. I never know, like, what is going to happen when you come on the air. because I always have notes. I always have tons of notes, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this, and this, and it never goes that way. Spirit just takes the reins, and I'm like, okay, I revoke whatever. So it needed this conversation. Lenon was very much needed. There are a lot of people who are like, oh, it was synchronicity for me to be on the line or to hear this show tonight because I really needed to hear this. And I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat room and on the phone lines and people who were texting me during this show. I send you so much love, and we thank you, Lenon. And since we did not talk about the other things that you're doing, once again, I'm going to have to ask if you can come back so we can so we can talk about the third installment of media manipulation, because all of these things, Lenon, that we talked about in the shows that you've been on are all tied in together to metamorphosis. Yes. And I cannot go to sleep tonight knowing that we haven't covered the media manipulation show that happens on Saturday, because the relationship show, the coming of Keyto, the Garden of Consciousness, and the relationship show are all related. So you have to come back and talk about the media manipulation.
Yes, and just let me know and we'll work it out. I will be here. I always enjoy talking with you, and I also want to thank everyone who tuned in. I hope you found it to be valuable. I know sometimes I can go off on tangents, but I try to stay as close to the topic as possible. But there's like you said, there's so much to talk about, and my objective is to be of service to people and hopefully inspire a greater possibility. And sometimes I have to talk through that process.
Well, we're used to it, and we love it. We love it when you go on the Lenon Honor tangent. That's what we're all here for. I don't. Let me tell you something, Lenon, and I will say this again. When people go on tangents on the H2O network, to me, these are not. Understand this. These are not interviews. These are collaborations and classroom moments. Because as I am having the conversation with you, as people are listening to this, we are all in a classroom growing, and that's how I see it. Your family here, everybody's family here, and we're learning. We're on this boat. We're navigating. So this is like a classroom moment for me. It's really not, it's never there'll never be interviews. This is information and resources to help exactly what you're talking about, and for us to stand in our truth, and that is to metamorphosis, to gain the 360-degree view of being this so-called human being. So, it is what it is. I'm just here for the ride, and wherever we go is wherever we go.
Yes, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful ride, and I appreciate you. I appreciate all your support over the years. And everyone else listening in, thank you all for being here, and please enjoy the rest of your week.
Indeed, and thank you so much, Lenon. And, of course, we have 90 seconds, however. I'm going to just give some closing thoughts and give you Lenon's information before we check out of here. I mean, what can one say after having an interview or a classroom bout with Lenon Honor? Because it is truly that, not just with Lenon Honor, but with every individual that steps on the H2O network. It is about resources. It's about coming together and literally cracking open our consciousness and to really back and to really think about how we're moving in this reality. So, family, make sure that you go to www.lenonhonorfilms.com. That's lenonhonorfilms.com. And all of his links are there for the Media Manipulation Show on Saturday, the Positive Relationship Show on Sunday, and a lot of other goodies. When I tell you goodies, Lenon has so many goodies, it's ridiculous. You could literally spend hours, like I was today, on LenonHonorFilms.com. He has a wonderful YouTube channel. Check that out. There's a lot of information. And also, family, please support individuals who come on this network or any network that has been contributing to the essence and fabric of humanity. It is through our support, being here, through donation, that Lenon and his family is able to bring you the resources that they do. This is very, very much important. And family, we are now in the archives, and I will continue to talk for a few minutes, and I thank everyone who is no longer in the archives with us. However, I do have some announcements to talk about. And as I was saying, we have to make sure that we support these individuals. These individuals, such as Lenon Honor and many other people, family, have sacrificed many things, their time, their family time, many things, because this is their destiny. This is a part of their fate to help, to be the reminders, if you will, the bullhorn, to help us all remember what we have forgotten as we have come into this element of reality. So we need to take the responsibility to be able to support our brothers and sisters, our family members, in any way possible that we can, whether it's doing what I'm doing, whether it's giving money, whether it's doing other things and giving of yourself and resources. We all need to support each other. We are all family, and I'm very adamant about that, and I try to do my part. And you should do your part as well, because without that, Lenon Honor would not, and Aida would not be able to do the wonderful things that they do for the greater fabric and essence of humanity. So make sure that you support him in the work that he does. And also his wife, she has a beautiful website, if you will, and she is on Facebook. So make sure that you type into your search engine Aida Honor and their fan pages, because she makes beautiful crafts, honey. She be doing her thing. I tell you, I would be broke if I could buy all of the things that she creates, beautiful jewelry and headpieces and foot pieces, if you will. So make sure that she has a craft society, so make sure that you check all of those things out. And also www.lenonhonorfilms.com. They also have a fan page. They're on Facebook, and they are also tweeting on Twitter. So make sure that you check them out. And YouTube, love their YouTube channel. Like I said, I could spend hours on their website, but you most definitely can spend hours on their YouTube channel, because they have the Media Manipulation Show downloaded. They have their Positive Relationship Show, some tidbits downloaded. So go over there and check it out. He has all kinds of wonderful things, and make sure you get his new book, In the Garden of Consciousness, because all of this stuff that we've been talking about every time that Lenon comes on the show is all connected. It is connected to the greater essence of who you are, your relationships, not just with your spouse and finding a spouse, but your greater relationships, period, in your life, the greater essence of who you are, and also outside of yourself. Like I said, the media manipulation, honey, I tell you, we be going at it and break it down. He is one of the best decoders of semiotics and emotional engineering and the psychology of all of the madness and craziness that is going on, which to me is very much important and is an element to this essence of being a greater human being, because when you see it, you're able to decode what you're seeing and not taking the pill of bedazzlement. So all of these things are very important, and I will let you all know when we have that show, because that is really going to be a fab one. I tell you, he gets these articles from all over the web about a particular topic, and he ties them all together to these huge events that are happening in our reality. And this next show is going to be very important because there are many different events that are coming up on the burner that we really need to be aware of, if you will, so we do not get bogged down or sucked into the emotional engineering aspect of reality. Because understand this, family, the way that this default works, one out of many ways, is that they work upon our emotional essence of being. They work on that reptilian brain. It's the same thing that Lenon was talking about in our relationships. They work upon the lower essence and spiritual chakras, and that is through the emotions. Our emotions are our spiritual tools, our spiritual software. And if you can create imbalance within the emotional mind of human beings and pull them into the illusion, you can really cause a lot of havoc, if you will. You can still the essence of their imagination. You can keep them stagnated in the mundane reality. So this next show will be fabulous, I can guarantee you. Make sure, again, you go to LenonHonorFilms.com and you check that out. And you will also be able to get all of the links on the HO Network fan page, and also on the HONetwork.weebly.com. Lenon Honor, since he's on the line, and I don't think him and his wife would mind, they're going to be on our relation. I'm going to now put a relationship tab up on the HO Network, because that's very much important, and I will put all of the information for consultations and many other things, because these videos, if you will, these archives are very important, and I know that me and my husband watch them avidly like clockwork, so you will find them very much useful. Family, I send you so much love. I hope that you enjoyed this show as much as I did. I love hanging out with Lenon Honor. I could talk to him for hours. Know, family, that you are so much more than what you perceive yourself to be. I know I say this every show, but it is so true, and I believe this from the deep, dark depths of my being and my soul. You are so much more than what you perceive yourself to be. The potentiality of who we are is so wonderful and so great, and we were brought here to remember. You have so much to offer humanity. We can no longer stand by the side of the road and wait for others to go by. We all have a destiny. We all have a destiny to be here and to do wonderful and great things. All we have to do is unlock these things. We do have the tools and resources to do so. We have to begin to think differently as human beings. We have to begin to change the things that we have made habitual in our lives. It will take work, but we can do it. I do have faith, and I do have hope in you. I see it every day. We have to change our perception, and it can be done. Be the peace that you seek. Be the love that you seek, and all of the things that you hope and wish for and know that you deserve will come and fall into your reality. But you have to take the first step. It begins from within. I send you so much love, family, and until next time, bye-bye.